Welcome back to the news today. This is the daily debate on Israel elections 2015. And the campaigns are shifting into high gear. Today, the Zionist Union introduced its new social plan. In the right-wing Jewish Home Party, Naftali Bennett toured Israel's very sensitive south. And Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited an organization aimed at banning products from the settlements. Lots of different things on the agenda for the parties today. But again today, publications in Israeli media were around the Netanyahu household and the possibility that a criminal investigation will begin on what's being called Bottlegate. With me tonight to talk about all of this, the big picture, it sounds like sort of a dark comedy, is Aviv Bushinsky, former media advisor to Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. And
Bottlegate is a great phrase. Yeah.
It is. And Dr. Hani Zubida, professor of political science at the Israel Valley Academic College. Good evening.
Good evening.
So it's probably, I shouldn't say it, but we've had an edition with so much of IS and terror and all of these terrible things. And here, although it's an election and it's very serious, and certainly the implications for Israel and the region are serious, it seems really comedic. You have these scandals mounting, but Netanyahu up in the polls. How do you explain that?
Yeah, you talk about protecting the environment, but when Sarah Netanyahu collects bottles and go back and refund, gets
her money back.
Yeah, but how I think that you need to decipher the DNA of the Likud or the right-wingers. When they feel that someone is trying to take the leadership in an awkward way or in a unfair way, such as all kind of stories and gossip stories, it doesn't matter if it's true or not. Then they say, okay, look, it's not fair. They're breaking all rules, and therefore they go and reunite and protect their leader, and in this case it's Netanyahu. This is one reason. The second reason is that Naftali Bennett, for various reasons, is losing a bit, and therefore the votes or the supporters that used to support Naftali Bennett shifted to Netanyahu. So these are the two main reasons why Netanyahu is up, and the left-wingers they don't find the real answer for it.
I want to take you, to the scandal. Why, is Benjamin Netanyahu really? There were reports. Let's take this back for a moment. I have a lot of different, clearly thoughts about him that I need to sort of put into place. There are reports now in Haaretz newspaper that actually the Netanyahu regime, so to speak, that the government is using its diplomatic forces, its people that are working in public diplomacy, all about journalism to sort of track what Netanyahu is being, where he is in the media and what's happening. Is that sort of fair game during elections?
Well, there's a huge issue.
Because it's an acting government.
The honorable judge that stands in the head of the committee for the elections or the monitoring of the election just said a few days ago that we should be, the candidates should be extremely careful not to utilize any type of governmental and public resources for their campaign. Right. For years and years in Israel, it was a problem. Should I remind everybody that during the Labor Day, the old Labor Day, they would rack all the Histadrut, the labor union, and all the people would come out and start moving and mobilizing people to the polls, vote labor, and then they utilized
strike.
Yes, of course, on that day. And then they utilized the offices of the government, the employees of the offices of the government, and so on and so forth. Look, there's an issue. This election campaign is extremely hectic and extremely short. And what we see in that period, a lot of people are using loopholes in order to promote things. And these loopholes will not be covered in the necessary time to stop these problems or these, let's call them non-fair plays in a game. I'm trying to be very diplomatic here. But let me say something that has to do with the former issue. I should say three names: Eli Ohana, Yitzhak Herzog, and Kachlon. These are the three issues. Eli Ohana first is hurting the Jewish home. Period.
Former star football player in Israel.
Hurting the Jewish home. They did not.
Even though he withdrew himself.
He withdrew himself.
It's a stain you can't erase.
Yeah.
He did a classical move. He did a very classical move. He did not put himself in the filth of the debate. He said after 2 days, I'm very sorry, this is not for me, excuse me, I'm leaving, going back to the youth national football team. The second name I gave was Yitzhak Herzog. Yitzhak Herzog made a crucial move by joining Tzipi Livni. He promoted himself
in the Zionist Union.
Yes, he promoted himself to the to be basically a candidate for the premier, although he wasn't considered as one, and everybody thought that would be a one-horse race. It's a two-horse race. But ever since, he did not do anything proactive, which is hurting him.
And he didn't manage to alleviate himself from Tzipi Livni.
Yes.
Like it's like
they're neck and neck yet running
exactly.
together. Is that part of their problem, that there are actually no clear leaders emerging?
There's some lack of leadership. When you listen carefully to what Herzog says, and in his interviews, he tries to raise his voice. He tries to look very firm, to try act like a leader. But
because that's what the Israeli public maybe needs.
Yeah, but
not
this
for
is
better or for worse, but what they're demanding.
I think that this whole election is full of hot air because they don't talk about the core issues.
Yes.
Right.
They don't care if you're against a Palestinian state, if you're in favor of a Palestinian state.
I have a question, though.
And then they deal with the details such as stories. They may be
petty, corrupt.
Yeah, they may be maybe very bad stories, but still it's less important in these days.
We're talking every day in the news today, almost when we're talking about Israel elections, we're talking about really this issue in some form or another, not dealing with the real issues, that Israel certainly has no lack of them, whether domestic or outward. Mm-hmm. Who is really to blame for that? Can we blame it on the leadership, that they're switching parties, that they're not leaders enough, that they're not organized? Or is the public also to blame for not sort of demanding that?
I blame the politicians because the way they shift, like Tzipi Livni shifted, I think, four different parties. She was extreme right, and she moved, and then she became a lefty. Netanyahu, at the beginning, he was against the Palestinian state. Then he had this famous speech and said that he's in favor, and now he's playing like a semi-game in favor or disfavor of Palestinian state. Everybody is fooling around here, and Netanyahu is the same guy who raised taxes, and on the other hand, he says no to raise taxes. It's a wrong economical act by a leader. So when they shifting and they moving and they are not consistent with the views, then you can blame only the politicians, not the public.
I want to take that point really quick with economy, because there's always this issue that, every election is the issue of economy versus security in the last decade maybe. Israel has a lot of economic problems. We're always talking about the social and economic problems that really are at the heart of everything. But at the end of the day, it always gets to security. And because Israel will always have such a range of security problems, I think it's fair to say, are elections doomed to always end up about security?
Well, they're not doomed always. There used to be election campaigns that were all about the economy, if we remember 2003, 2005. But here's the issue, which I think, as they say, it's all about the economy, dummy. But it's not really, because security in Israel is also about economy. There's a huge thing here that we need to take into consideration. Israel, the day after the election, all the politicians will need to think coalition.
Right.
And right now, a campaign...
After the bitter rivalry,
exactly.
They have to figure out how to work together.
The issue is how much bad blood are you willing to insert into the system, and can you clean it immediately after? So here goes. Benjamin Netanyahu right now, through the grapevine, everybody knows there were talks between him and Bennett and the Jewish Home. They might consolidate themselves into one party. Didn't happen, okay? But right now, what should he do? Should he start smacking heads with Bennett? No, he doesn't. So he tries to smack heads with Herzog. But Herzog is also a viable coalition member.
It's a whole bunch of moving targets.
And then one more moment. And then there's the issue which you said, and there needs to be something said about it. Livni, Yitzhak Herzog. And here goes. The grapevine is saying that the campaign right now, the shift they're running, is extremely in differences of opinion. They do not agree on how they should proceed with the campaign, and that is what paralyzing their campaign. So the issue is right now, how should they run the campaign versus what do they think are their possible partners?
I tend to disagree, because I think that elections, and you can look backwards, are the most fundamental thing is security. And I remember working with Netanyahu. Once we tried to do it's all with the economy, Bibi, yes, like Habibi, Bibi, the economy, and we failed and we lost to Sharon. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Netanyahu has the stands on the best square with security. Livni didn't make it. They tried to recruit some...
and there's no one out there that has his clout, really, right now in the Israeli political
market. No. They're collecting generals.
Only Ehud Barak managed to beat Netanyahu because he was considered, first of all, to be the soldier number one. Yitzhak Rabin was also a warrior. Arik Sharon was a warrior. But first of all, it's all security. And I think that to try and shift you, today they exposed, the Labour Party showed their new economic plan, and they didn't talk about the economic plan. Everybody said, you see, this minister or this cabinet member...
a social plan
without members that came to see the press conference.
There's an issue.
Because this is not an issue.
Their campaign is extremely torn. I should say so. I do think that everybody, when they think about the number one topic in Israel, is security. But our society is crumbling from within, and that's a major issue. Now, here's what I'm thinking.
The issue here is maybe that the society is crumbling from within, but there's still a perception that security is the end-all, be-all. That's
true.
But then the next step is right here, because the next step is, as I said, coalition game. And right now, thinking about everything the candidates have said, and the fact that Lieberman has moved left, and the fact that Kahlon is pointing to the left, and Lapid is saying everything but Netanyahu, and other people are saying everything but Netanyahu, it might be that the core issue between the two premier candidates would be security, but the coalition is going to be social-economic coalition. And that's a whole different range of possibilities, because then Bushi can go to Kahlon, he can go to Lieberman, he can go to Deri, he can go and collect the ultra-Orthodox, he can go and collect them and create a coalition which is based on socio-economic issues and not security.
So, Mr. Bushinsky, you know Netanyahu quite well, at least at a time. If he does win, as he's largely predicted to do, how do you foresee his coalition? Will he be able to reconcile with the Labour Party? What kind of picture is he going to try to build?
I think that, as they usually do, he'll first of all call the Labour Party and say, come, let's unite.
Let's reconcile. We're all here for the same purpose.
Under the assumption that Mr. Herzog will say no, under the assumption. Netanyahu, as mentioned, has more cards to play. He has more flexibility in building a coalition. And Netanyahu, I think, is so many years in the game that maybe he lost some touch with the simple people in the street. But so he can be very aggressive and decide whatever he wants. And when the media attacks him, and some of the newspapers try to topple him, and they try to investigate him, and in case he wins, he say, you see, I did it by myself, and now you should wait and be quiet. I think that he'll behave. In several years ago, I thought, he's there for so many years. Maybe he'll do something different. Maybe he'll be like a new peacemaker.
Say, I've been here for 6 years.
Now it's time to change, because I already proved that I fit to be re-elected. I think he won't change.
And if there's another term, no change?
I think so, no. That's what he believes. And someone asked him several days ago, why do you need all this hustle? Why aren't you, go retire, make some money? He said, there's no one there that I can give the keys. I can't hand over the keys to lead the state of Israel.
Do you think that's the case, that there's no one to give the keys to?
No, I think he wants to go down. That's what he believes. Yeah, but I think he wants to go down in history as the one who stayed the most in the premier position. I think that this election, he's completely misreading the field. I think he didn't just lose touch with the simple voter. I think he lost touch with his coalition members. I think he needs. Well, I think he's a political animal, and I think what he's doing is he's shifting for better positions as we go through the campaign. Unlike Herzog and Livni, who are losing, he's moving up the hill. But I think the game at the end of the day in Israel, just when Livni won more seats for the parliament and he won less and he became the prime minister, is not about the strength of the party or the number of the seats that the party collects. It's about viable coalitions. This is the game in Israel. And right now, I think the say, just not Bibi, is still stronger than the coalition for Bibi. I think he still has leniency because he is the premier and the incumbent has what we call an embedded advantage, but I think he's losing this advantage. Right now, I think the most important thing for Netanyahu is if we play the tennis card, the less mistakes he makes, the better he is in the election day.
When you promise no politicians,
he seems to be making a lot of mistakes, or at least the journalists are jumping on it.
When you promise those politicians the seats, okay, it doesn't matter who it is. Seats can buy everything, and then they will adhere to Netanyahu despite the fact that they despise him.
This is what's crazy.
But then we saw Herzog really giving half of his kingdom for the possibility. So I think Herzog also knows how to play the resource game.
Some say that he did play.
Just to end on, I want to look for a second at the big picture, because coming from outside, I mean, in Israel, this all seems sort of natural, this coalition, this kind of changing the seats all the time. But coming from the outside, and certainly if comparing to the United States, already when you vote for president, you have no idea really what you're getting. Campaign promises are a whole different ballgame than the real thing. Here, you don't know the promises you're going to get, if they're real. You don't know who you're going to get. You don't know what combination of a government. You don't know what priorities. Is there a way out of that?
Wow, it seems that you came from out of space. You're naive.
What a crazy idea, I know.
I think that people, first of all, here in Israel, associate first with a personality. They think that Bibi speaks like a leader, and Bougie Herzog is a bit, if I may say, a sissy. Okay, he's too soft. They don't really think thorough about the core issues. For example, just mentioned, let's say the Likud and Bennett will unite. One is against the Palestinian state and one is in favor. How can they unite?
We're going to have to end on the total mess, gentlemen. Thank you very much. You'll be back. We're going out for a 2-minute break. Next up, an interview with Marine Le Pen. Don't go anywhere.